Girl, are you deaf? I said get out. Adults are talking. Viktor Kozlov didn't even look up from his contract. $40 million spread across the table. His lawyers smirked. And take that squeaking cart with you. What do they pay you people for? To interrupt? Elena Rodriguez stood in the doorway. Housekeeping uniform, name tag crooked. 28 years old. Black. I'm sorry, sir. I just need to refill the water. Do I look like I care? Out, now. His attorney laughed. Actually, I laughed. Elena's hands trembled as she set down the tray. 8 seconds of silence. 8 seconds of being nothing. But then her eyes locked onto the contract. Her gaze sharpened. Viktor Kozlov had just made the most expensive mistake of his criminal career. Have you ever been so certain someone was beneath you that you stopped seeing them as human? What if that invisibility was the only thing protecting you? Elena didn't leave. She set down the water carafe. Slowly, deliberately. Her eyes stayed locked on the contract visible across the table, the dense legal text, pages of clauses and subclauses. She was reading it, upside down. Viktor leaned back in his chair. I said, out. Elena's voice came out quiet, measured. Section 19, subsection C. That clause is a trap. The room went silent. Viktor's smile disappeared. His lead attorney, Michael Carter, looked up from his notes. Excuse me? Elena pointed. Didn't touch the document, just pointed. The liability transfer provision. It's structured as limited indemnification, but the cross-reference to Section 7 creates unlimited joint and several liability. If any party defaults, you're personally responsible for all debts, including theirs. Viktor stared at her. And how would a cleaning girl know about corporate liability? Chen wasn't smiling anymore. He was reading, flipping pages, his finger tracing lines of text. His face went pale. Wait, hold on. This clause here references... He flipped back, forward again. Oh my God. The other lawyers scrambled, grabbing copies, everyone reading at once. Chen looked up at Viktor. His voice barely whispers. She's right. Holy shit. She's right. Viktor stood slowly, walked around the table, stopped 3 feet from Elena. What's your name? Elena Rodriguez. And where exactly did you learn contract law, Elena? She met his eyes. I read. Here's what Viktor Kozlov didn't know. He'd just entered a deal with the Calabrese family, a partnership he'd been chasing for 18 months. The clause Elena spotted? It would have made him personally liable for $127 million in existing Calabrese debts, hidden in shell companies. His counterparts knew about it. They were counting on him not reading carefully. They were counting on his lawyers missing it. They definitely weren't counting on a housekeeper in a faded uniform seeing what Harvard-educated attorneys couldn't. Chen was still flipping pages, checking calculations. His hands shook slightly. Viktor, if you'd signed this, we'd have lost everything. The company, your assets, everything. Viktor looked at Elena, really looked at her. For the first time, he saw her. But who was this woman in a housekeeping uniform? Viktor took a step closer. What's your name? Elena Rodriguez. And where did you learn contract law, Elena? Silence. Then, I read. Viktor studied her face, looking for something, a tell, a lie. He found nothing. To understand what happened next, you need to know 3 things about Elena Rodriguez. First, the gift. She was 6 years old. Chicago Public Library, Englewood Branch. The roughest neighborhood in the city. Little Elena sat cross-legged on the floor, reading an adult legal thriller. The librarian, Mrs. Carter, noticed. Honey, that's a grown-up book. Elena didn't look up. I know, Mrs. Carter crouched down, decided to test her. What does habeas corpus mean? Elena's finger stayed on the page. You have the body. It means the government has to justify why they're keeping someone in jail. Mrs. Carter's eyes went wide. Second, the circumstances. Elena's mother, Carla, worked 2 jobs. One of them was the night shift at this very hotel, cleaning the same floors Elena would clean 20 years later. Elena did homework in service corridors, slept on lobby couches while her mother worked, grew up surrounded by wealth she'd never touch. But she watched everything. Lawyers in conference rooms, business deals through glass doors. She read discarded newspapers, memorized legal documents left on tables. She absorbed it all. Because when you're invisible, you see everything. Third, the barrier. Full scholarship to Northwestern Law School. LSAT score of 178 out of 180. Top 2% in the country. She completed 1.5 years. Dean's List both semesters. Her professors said she was the best student they'd seen in a decade. Then her mother got sick. Stage 4 breast cancer. Medical bills piled up fast. $340,000. Elena dropped out. Took a housekeeping job at the same hotel chain. For health insurance. Her mother died 11 months later. Elena stayed. Trapped by debt. Exhausted by grief. Made invisible by a uniform. Back in the conference room, Carter was asking Elena questions. Rapid fire. The indemnification cap on page 42. What's the issue? It's not actually capped. The language says up to but doesn't specify circumstances. Leaves it open to interpretation. The arbitration clause? Section 16.3. It specifies New York law, but the contract is executed in Illinois. Creates jurisdictional ambiguity that benefits them, not you. Chen looked at Victor, his voice shaking slightly. She's not just right about Section 19. She's found 4 additional problematic clauses I missed. 4. And I'm charging you $850 an hour. The smell of lemon furniture polish clung to Elena's uniform. The scent of cleaning chemicals. Her hands were rough, dry, from scrubbing toilets and wiping down mirrors. Those same hands now held a $40 million contract she'd never benefit from. The fluorescent light reflected off her laminated hotel ID badge. The photo showed her smiling. Back when she still thought things might get better. The squeaky cartwheel in the hallway. That annoying sound Victor had complained about. That was Elena's signature. Her constant presence in a building full of people who never learned her name. Victor asked quietly, "Why didn't you finish law school?" The subtext was clear. "What's wrong with you?" Elena's answer came steady. "I chose my mother." Translation: I have loyalties you can't buy. Her voice didn't waver when she said it, but her fingers tightened around the water carafe, just slightly, the only tell that she'd lost everything for that choice. The room stayed silent. Chen gathered the contracts, stacked them carefully, like they might explode if handled wrong. Victor kept staring at Elena, calculating. He didn't build an empire by missing opportunities. He saw one now. "Come with me," he said. "My office. We need to talk." Elena hesitated. "I need to get back to work. I'm on shift." Victor's voice was firm. "Your shift just changed." But Victor Kozlov didn't know half of it yet. He was about to discover that the woman who'd just saved him from bankruptcy had been watching him for 18 months. And she'd seen everything. Victor's office overlooked Lake Michigan. Floor-to-ceiling windows, mahogany desk. The smell of cigar smoke lingered in the air. Elena still wore her uniform. She sat in a $12,000 leather chair. First time she'd ever sat in a front-of-house seat. Her reflection stared back from the polished conference table. She barely recognized herself in this context. Victor paced. "Walk me through the entire contract, every problem." "I need to get back to work. My supervisor. I'll handle your supervisor. Talk. Elena took a breath. Then she began. No notes, no computer. All from memory. Page 7, Clause 3.2. Page 15, Subsection B. Page 28, the amendment rider. She recited page numbers, clause numbers, legal precedents, cited case law from memory, 12 problematic provisions total. She estimated potential liability exposure at $340 million. Victor stopped pacing, stood completely still. He had 3 PhDs on payroll, attorneys from Yale, Harvard, Stanford, the best legal minds money could buy, but not one of them had photographic memory combined with pattern recognition this acute. And not one of them had been invisible enough to watch him negotiate for 18 months without him noticing. Victor leaned against his desk. Why tell me? Why not just let me sign? Elena met his eyes. Because my mother cleaned these floors for 23 years. She taught me not to stay silent when you see someone about to get hurt. Even if they just called you girl. She paused. And because of those men across the table? They laughed when you disrespected me. They think you're a fool. I don't like bullies. Not a savior complex. A personal code. Not resentment. Professional pride. Not forgiveness. Strategic alliance. Victor noticed Elena's gaze shift to a photo on his desk. A young girl, maybe 8 years old, dark hair, bright smile. My daughter, Victor said. Anya. She's at Stanford, pre-law. Something flickered across Elena's face. Gone in a second. Victor made a decision that would change both their lives. I need someone who can see what others miss. Work for me. Review all my contracts. Elena shook her head. I'm not a lawyer. You're better than my lawyers. I'll pay you what I pay them, Victor said. $850 an hour. Elena stared at him. $850 an hour. To start. She should have said yes immediately. Anyone would have. But Elena had learned something from being invisible. I keep my housekeeping job. Victor frowned. Why? Because people talk around housekeepers. They say things they'd never say if they knew someone was listening. I'm more useful to you than invisible. Victor Kozlov had built his empire on reading people, understanding what they wanted, what they feared. In that moment, he realized something. He wasn't hiring an advisor. He was standing in front of a natural spy. 2 hours later, same day. Victor had a meeting scheduled with an Italian construction consortium, the Bellucci family. $60 million, a development deal for prime Lincoln Park property. They were bringing contracts at 2 o'clock. Victor handed Elena a stack of documents, 340 pages plus exhibits. Read them. Tell me what you see. Elena checked her watch. You have 90 minutes. She took the documents to a service corridor, her comfort zone, sat on an overturned mop bucket. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, the smell of bleach and industrial soap. This was her world. She read like she was breathing, page after page. Her eyes scanned, absorbing, cross-referencing in her mind. She pulled out her phone, started checking property records, public databases. Then she found it. The document was dated wrong, 2021 instead of 2024. She cross-checked the property address, 2847 North Lincoln. The building they were buying had already been sold, 3 years ago, to a shell company, owned by the Bellucci family. It was a double-sale fraud scheme. They were selling Victor a building they already owned, through a different entity. 2 o'clock, conference room. Victor sat at the head of the table, Carlo Bellucci and 3 associates, all in $5,000 suits. Elena entered with a coffee service, moving quietly, setting down cups. She leaned close to Victor, whispered in his ear. The building doesn't exist. Check deed registry parcel 14-2089, sold March 2021. Victor's hand froze over his pen. He looked at Bellucci, smiled pleasantly. When exactly did you purchase 2847 North Lincoln? Bellucci's face didn't change, but his attorney's did. 30 seconds of silence. Victor slid the contract back across the table. We're done. He stood, walked out. Elena followed. In the hallway, Bellucci exploded through the door. Who the fuck is she? Victor's voice went ice cold. My insurance policy. Bellucci lunged toward Elena. Victor stepped between them. Touch her, and I'll make sure you never contract again in this city. Bellucci's face went red, but he stepped back. Elena had just saved Victor $60 million. But more importantly, she'd sent a message to every organization in Chicago's underworld. Victor Kozlov had someone who could see through any deception, someone who caught what everyone else missed. And no one knew who she was. That squeaky cartwheel, the annoying sound from this morning, it became Elena's signature, her entrance music. When people heard that squeak in the hallway, they started paying attention, started watching their words, because the invisible woman was listening. And she never forgot anything. 3 weeks later, the resistance began. Dmitry Volkov was Victor's nephew, 39 years old, Harvard MBA, 15 years climbing the ladder in the organization. Now a black woman in a housekeeping uniform had more influence than he did. He couldn't accept it. First incident, high-stakes negotiation with Japanese investors. Dmitry forgot to inform Elena about the meeting. The deal went through without her review. 2 weeks later, Victor discovered the problem. A currency exchange trap buried in the contract. Yen-to-dollar fluctuation clause that could cost $8 million. He barely salvaged it through renegotiation. Victor found Dmitry in his office. Why wasn't Elena there? Dmitry straightened his tie. With respect, Uncle, she's housekeeping. The Japanese would see it as disrespectful to bring cleaning staff to a business meeting. Victor stared at him, said nothing, walked out. Second incident, morning briefing 1 week later. Elena arrived early, poured coffee for the team. Old habit. She heard voices from inside the conference room. The door was cracked open, just slightly. Diversity hire. Victor's having a midlife crisis. She's probably sleeping with... The voices weren't even lowered. They wanted her to hear. Elena entered the room, set down the coffee pot, took her seat at the table. Her hand trembled slightly as she lifted her cup. Just once. But she didn't say a word. Third incident, staff meeting. 15 people were present. Dmitry leaned back in his chair, addressed Elena directly, in front of everyone. Elena, remind us. Where did you get your law degree? I don't have one. Right. So when we take advice from unlicensed individuals, aren't we opening ourselves to liability? He looked around the room. Several heads nodded. Victor stood, slowly. Dmitry, how many times has Elena been wrong? That's not the point. Answer the question. Silence. 0, Victor said. She's been consulted on 47 deals, found problems in 31, been wrong 0 times. Your record? Dmitry's face went red. Last year you cost us $2.3 million in a deal Elena wasn't allowed to see. So let me be clear. Victor's voice dropped, dangerous and quiet. Elena Rodriguez has more authority in this organization than anyone without my last name. Are we understood? But it wasn't just Dmitry. In 3 weeks, Elena had been stopped by security 6 times entering the executive floor. Asked to show ID in her own office 4 times. A client asked her to fetch coffee, assumed she was administrative staff. She never corrected them, because invisibility, she'd learned, was its own kind of power. Her mother used to say something, back when Elena was young and angry about being overlooked. Mija, they can't see you, but you can see everything. One day that will matter more than their visibility ever could. Elena didn't understand then. She did now. Her security badge sometimes failed at doors. She wasn't properly entered in the system. The fluorescent lights of service corridors versus the soft lighting of executive offices. She moved between both worlds. Her housekeeping uniform hung in a closet in Victor's office. She still wore it strategically, when she needed to be invisible again. The squeaky cart sat permanently parked outside Victor's door now, a symbol. But prejudice wasn't Elena's biggest problem. Someone was about to test just how invisible she could be, and whether she'd see them coming. 6 weeks after that first contract, Victor was expanding into community development, legitimizing the business, moving away from his past. $25 million, affordable housing project on the south side of Chicago, partnership with Chicago Housing Authority and private developers. Elena was assigned to review compliance documents. The developer was Meridian Construction. Their environmental impact report claimed soil testing was complete, safe for residential construction. Elena noticed something. The testing company, EnviroTech Solutions, wasn't licensed in Illinois. She cross-referenced with the EPA database. The land was a former industrial site. Lead contamination had never been properly assessed. But Elena saw something deeper in the records. She pulled up community demographics. 89% Black residents. Median household income, $31,000. This was her neighborhood, 3 blocks from where she grew up. She used her day off to visit the site, wore her housekeeping uniform. Intentional choice. An elderly man sat on his porch across the street. Elena approached him. "Excuse me, sir. Do you remember what used to be here?" He squinted at her. "Maid batteries, closed in '89. They just paved over it." "Did they ever test the soil?" He laughed, bitter and tired. "Honey, nobody tests nothing in this neighborhood." Elena went to the public library, pulled historical records, microfiche from 30 years ago. The factory produced lead-acid batteries for 40 years. It was an EPA Superfund site candidate. But developers buried the report. If this housing got built, children would be exposed to lead levels 40 times acceptable limits. Meeting with the developer. Next morning. Elena presented her findings. Victor sat beside her. Richard Hartwell, Meridian's CEO, sat across. 55. White. Expensive watch. "The reports are filed with the city," Hartwell said. "Everything's legal." Legal doesn't mean safe. You're about to poison 300 families. That's inflammatory. That's chemistry. Lead doesn't care about your profit margin. Hartwell leaned forward. "Look, we all know what this is about. You're trying to kill this deal because—" He stopped, left the sentence unfinished. But the implication was crystal clear. Victor's voice cut through the room, ice cold. "Finish that sentence, please." Hartwell backtracked fast. "I just mean there's always someone trying to stop progress in these neighborhoods." Victor stood. "We're done. Elena, draw up termination of partnership." Hartwell stood too. "You're walking away from $25 million over some house—" He caught himself. "Over her opinion?" "I'm walking away because she's right, and because you were about to call her something I won't repeat in front of her." Victor turned to Elena. "Fix it, however much it costs. Proper remediation, safe construction, 40 million total. You'll lose money." "Then I lose money." "How long?" 18 months, but it'll be safe." "Do it." At that moment, Victor Kozlov chose something different. Doing right by people who'd never know his name. And Elena Rodriguez realized she wasn't just saving contracts anymore. She was saving lives. 18 months later, the housing project opened. 300 families in safe homes, Average resident black, working class, earning under $40,000 annually. The kind of people America doesn't usually build safe things for. Lead levels tested at 0, mister. Washington, the man who told Elena about the factory, was one of the first residents. At the ribbon cutting, he found Elena in the crowd, still in her uniform. He didn't say anything, just hugged her. Elena broke down. Right there. Because this was why it mattered. 4 months after that first contract. Victor's annual partnership gala. 200 guests. Business leaders, attorneys, politicians, law enforcement. Formal announcement of the year's partnerships and promotions. Elena was invited. First time as a guest. Not staff. She declined. Day before the gala, Victor's office. "You're coming tomorrow night." Elena shook her head. "I don't belong there." "You belong there more than half the people attending." "Victor, I'll be the only black woman not serving drinks." Victor leaned forward. "Then let them see what intelligence looks like." The next evening, Elena arrived alone. Navy suit. Bought at a thrift store. She'd tailored it herself. No jewelry except her mother's simple cross necklace. Silver. Worn. She walked into the ballroom. Immediate stares. People recognizing her. That housekeeper. Whispers rippled through the crowd. "Is that her?" Victor took the podium. Thanked partners, lawyers, board members. Recounted the year's successes. 400 million in deals closed. "But we also avoided 600 million in potential losses." He paused. "Because of one person." The room shifted. Curious now. 4 months ago, I was about to sign the worst contract of my career. I didn't see the trap. My attorneys, some of the best in Chicago, didn't see it. But someone did. He gestured toward Elena. Every head turned. "Elena Rodriguez saved this organization from bankruptcy, and she's done it 47 times since." Dmitri couldn't help himself. "Uncle, I think we should discuss this in private." Victor cut him off. "We're discussing it now." He turned back to the crowd. "Some of you know Elena as the woman who cleaned these floors. Some of you still think that's all she is." Silence. Uncomfortable and thick. "Let me tell you who Elena Rodriguez actually is. She has photographic memory and tested genius-level IQ. She nearly completed Northwestern Law on full scholarship. She's prevented more fraud in 4 months than my entire legal team prevented in 4 years. He paused. Let it sink in. She's done this while still working housekeeping, because she refuses to forget where she came from. Another pause. Longer this time. Effective immediately, Elena Rodriguez is General Counsel of Kozlov Enterprises. Silence. Complete and total. Then applause. Starting with Victor's daughter, Anya, home from Stanford for the event. The sound built slowly. Most people clapped. Some didn't. Dmitri, a few old guard members, but most did. Elena stood. Her legs were shaking slightly. Walked to the podium. Victor stepped aside. She looked at the crowd, the people who'd never seen her. I'm not going to pretend this isn't strange for everyone. A quiet laugh rippled through the room. For 23 years, my mother cleaned buildings like this. She taught me 2 things. First, dignity isn't about what you do. It's about how you do it. Second, the people you don't notice, they notice everything. She looked directly at Dmitri. I've been noticing for a long time. I'm looking forward to being seen. She stepped back. In that moment, Elena Rodriguez stopped being invisible. Crystal chandeliers reflected off her mother's silver cross. Her heels clicked on marble. Different sound than squeaky cartwheels. The weight of eyes actually seeing her. One guest reached for his empty glass. Started to hand it to Elena. Caught himself. Turned red. Elena smiled. After party. Rooftop terrace. 11 at night. Most guests had left. Elena stood alone at the railing, overlooking the Chicago skyline, still in her suit, jacket off, barefoot, heels beside her on the concrete. Victor approached, 2 glasses of bourbon in his hands. "You didn't have to accept the position." Elena glanced at him. "I didn't have to save your ass 4 months ago either." Victor laughed. "Fair point." City sounds below them. Distant traffic. A train rattling past. "Can I ask you something?" "You're going to anyway." Victor set down 1 glass beside her. "That first day, when I called you girl, when I dismissed you, why didn't you just walk away?" Elena was quiet for a long moment. "Because I was tired. Tired of being invisible. Tired of knowing things and not mattering. Tired of watching men like you, smart men, make stupid mistakes because they never learned to see people like me." She looked at him. "You gave me an opportunity to matter, even if you didn't mean to." Victor stared out at the city. "My daughter asked me something tonight." Elena waited. She said, "Dad, if Elena had been a man, white, Harvard-educated, would you have dismissed her that day?" And I didn't have a good answer. Pause. "I've been thinking about it all night. The answer is no. I wouldn't have. I know. Does that bother you?" "Every day. But what bothers me more is all the other Elena Rodriguezes out there, the ones who never get the chance to correct someone's mistake. They just stay invisible." Victor turned to face her. "Is that why you kept the housekeeping job?" "Partly. But also those women on that staff, Maria, Keisha, Luce. They're my family. My mother's legacy. If I just leave them behind, become one of you," she gestured at the party inside. "Then what did any of this mean?" Victor processed that. "So, what do you want to do?" "I want to build something. Not just for me. For all of them." That conversation lasted 20 minutes, but it changed everything. Because Victor Kozlov, for the first time in his life, wasn't talking to an employee or an asset. He was talking to someone he respected as an equal. And Elena Rodriguez realized something. Changing one person's mind could be the beginning of changing everything. Cool night air. September in Chicago. Distant sound of the L train. City lights reflected on Elena's face. Through the window, Victor's daughter Anya watched them. Curious. Smiling slightly. Elena's bare feet on concrete. Echo of childhood. Always taking off 2 small shoes. Victor set his glass down beside hers. Equal level. 3 weeks later. 2 in the morning. Victor's phone call woke Elena from a dead sleep. "Get to my office. Now." She arrived 30 minutes later. Victor looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Federal investigation. RICO case targeting Chicago organized crime. They're naming my organization in the preliminary inquiry." Elena's stomach dropped. "Charges?" "Not yet. But they're building a case. If they indict, everything collapses. Business, family, freedom." He handed her a flash drive. 10 years, 12,000 documents, every deal, every partner, every transaction. "What am I looking for?" "Anything that can bury me. I need to know before they find it." Elena checked her watch. "How long do I have?" "Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Morrison is presenting to the grand jury in 72 hours. 72 hours. 12,000 documents. Elena took the drive. She locked herself in the conference room, cleared her schedule, told Maria she'd be unreachable. Hour 1 through 12. Pattern recognition, sorting by deal type, date, associates. Hour 13 through 24. Coffee number 4. Hands shaking, eyes burning. Hour 25 through 36. First discovery. Problematic contractor link. She dismissed it. Not actionable. Hour 37 through 48. Second discovery. Shell company connection. Concerning but legal. Hour 49 through 60. Elena fell asleep at her desk. 15 minutes. Maria from housekeeping brought her food. Didn't ask questions. Hour 61. The breakthrough. A pattern buried across 40 different deals, seemingly unrelated. Victor's construction company used a subcontractor, Apex Logistics. Services provided: waste disposal, security, transport. But financial records showed no actual services rendered. Money flowed out to Apex, then flowed back through shell company investments. Elena cross-referenced the ownership records. Apex Logistics was a front company for the Calabrese family, the same family from that first contract, the one that started everything. It was textbook money laundering, $18 million over 6 years. The problem? Victor didn't know. His old COO had set it up. The man was fired 2 years ago for different reasons, but the law doesn't care about intent. The pattern implies knowledge. Elena stared at the documents for 20 minutes. She could delete them, bury them in the other 11,960 files. Morrison would never find this pattern. It took Elena 62 hours, and she knew what she was looking for. Victor would be safe, and she'd be complicit in exactly the kind of crime that destroys communities like hers. 3 in the morning, hour 72. Elena called Victor. I found it. How bad? Federal prison bad. But you didn't know. Silence on the line. Can you prove that? Maybe. Not definitely. Victor arrived at the office 20 minutes later. Elena laid it out. Every detail. Every transaction. The entire scheme. We have 2 options, she said. Hide it and hope they never find it, or we find it first. What does that mean? We present it to Morrison ourselves, show good faith, control the narrative. Victor's face went pale. That's insane. We'd be handing her the case. We'd be showing we found it, that you didn't know, and more importantly, we'd be giving her something bigger. She'll never believe we just found this coincidentally. Elena leaned forward. She will if we give her the Calabrese family. Victor stared at her. I've been tracking their operations through these documents. 6 active schemes. Current frauds worth over $200 million. Evidence that would take the FBI 2 years to compile. We hand it over in 90 minutes. They'll retaliate, come after us. Both of us. I know. My reputation in the underworld is destroyed. I'll be labeled an informant. I know. Physical danger. To me. To you. To everyone in this organization. Elena met his eyes. The alternative is 20 years in federal prison. You choose. Victor looked at Elena for a long time. If we do this, they'll come for you too. You know that? I know. Why would you risk that? Because I'm not in the business of protecting criminals. I'm in the business of protecting you. And right now, the only way to do that is to tell the truth. 8 in the morning. Federal building, downtown Chicago. Morrison sat across from them. 2 FBI agents flanking her. 42 years old, notorious conviction rate. She looked skeptical. You're here voluntarily to confess to money laundering? Elena spoke. We're here to report a crime we discovered in our records. How convenient. Elena laid out the entire scheme, showed Victor's innocence through email records, approval chains. The former COO acted alone. Then she slid across another folder. But we found something else. Morrison opened it, started reading. Her eyes widened. This is a roadmap to 6 active Calabrese operations, current frauds, over $200 million, with evidence. Elena leaned back. You can indict Victor for something he didn't know about. Or you can take down an organization he can help you prove is actively criminal. Morrison looked at the FBI agents. Back to Elena. Who the hell are you? Victor answered. My attorney. Elena smiled. And the woman who's going to make your career. Jennifer Morrison had put away senators, mob bosses, corporate criminals. But she'd never met anyone like Elena Rodriguez. Someone who understood that the most powerful weapon wasn't hiding the truth. It was choosing when to reveal it. 6 hours of negotiation. Morrison agreed. Immunity for Victor based on unwitting involvement and cooperation. Protective custody during the investigation. Victor would provide testimony, documents, insider knowledge. Elena would coordinate information flow. Morrison looked at Victor. You understand what you're doing. Your reputation. Victor cut her off. My reputation was built on fear. Maybe it's time to build something else. In 72 hours, Elena Rodriguez had read 12,000 documents, found evidence of federal crimes, negotiated immunity for her client, provided a roadmap to dismantling one of Chicago's most dangerous crime families. But the hardest part was about to begin. The squeaky cart sat in Elena's office now. She couldn't use it anymore. Too recognizable. A security risk. Because the Calabrese family had just learned who gave them up. And they don't forgive. 8 months later. Morrison's case against the Calabrese family. 37 indictments, 28 convictions. RICO charges stuck. $340 million in assets seized. Victor's cooperation was documented. Public record. His immunity was granted. The organization was restructured. Fully legitimate operations now. But there was a cost. Victor's underworld connections were severed. Some former partners wouldn't work with him anymore. Dimitri resigned. Couldn't accept the informant association. Revenue dropped 40% in the first 6 months, but no criminal liability, no prison, no destroyed lives. Elena's role became public. Chicago Tribune ran the story. The housekeeper who took down a crime family. Speaking requests flooded in. Law schools, civic organizations, corporate conferences, job offers from major firms, up to $500,000 a year. She declined all of them. Then came the invitation. Northwestern Law School. The dean personally called. We'd like you to speak at commencement, and we're offering you an honorary Doctor of Law degree for exceptional contribution to justice. 15 years after she dropped out. Elena told Victor she didn't want it. I didn't finish. I don't deserve it. Victor looked at her. You did more than finish. You proved the degree was never the point. Commencement day. Elena wore her mother's cross, the navy suit from the gala. Symbolic now. She walked across the same stage where she once sat as a student. The auditorium erupted. Standing ovation. 3 full minutes. In the audience, Maria and the housekeeping staff were crying. Victor and Anya sat front row. Elena took the podium, looked at the graduating class. 15 years ago, I sat where you're sitting. I thought a degree would change my life. Then my mother got sick, and I learned that sometimes life changes your plans. Pause. I didn't finish law school. I became a housekeeper. For years, I thought that made me a failure. Another pause. I was wrong. Her voice strengthened. That housekeeping job taught me what no law class could. How to be invisible, how to listen, how to see patterns others miss because they're too busy being seen. I learned that intelligence isn't about credentials. It's about curiosity, persistence, paying attention when everyone else assumes you can't. She looked across the crowd. You're graduating today with honors, opportunities, privilege. Most of you will join firms, make good money, live comfortable lives. But I want to ask you something. Who are you going to see? Silence. Because the greatest injustice in our legal system isn't complex fraud or white-collar crime. It's invisibility. Her voice dropped. More intimate now. There are Elena Rodriguez's cleaning your offices right now, serving your coffee, parking your cars, and they're brilliant. They're strategic. They're capable of extraordinary things. But no one sees them. No one asks their names. No one wonders what they could become if someone just noticed. She leaned into the microphone. So, here's what I'm asking. Notice. Ask questions. Create opportunities. Because talent isn't rare. Opportunity is. And if you do that, you won't just practice law, you'll change lives. Elena's voice broke slightly. My mother used to say the most powerful people aren't the ones everyone sees. They're the ones who see everyone else. She was right. When Elena finished, she looked directly at Maria in the audience, the woman who'd brought her food during those 72 hours of document review. Maria was sobbing. Because Elena wasn't just accepting an honor. She was honoring everyone who'd ever been invisible. Outside the ceremony hall, students lined up to talk to Elena. One young woman approached. Aaliyah, 22, black, first-generation college student. I'm the only black woman in my graduating class. Sometimes I feel like I don't belong. Elena looked at her. Do you know the law? Yes. Then you belong. Don't let anyone make you invisible. Backstage, private moment. The dean found Elena. We'd like to offer you an adjunct professorship, legal strategy and pattern recognition. Teach others what you know. I'll think about it. There's more. We're creating a scholarship, the Carla Rodriguez Memorial Scholarship. Full ride for students who have to leave school due to family circumstances. Covers tuition, living expenses, a pathway back. Elena's breath caught. My mother's name? Victor Kozlov endowed it. $10 million. It'll help 40 students per year, forever. Elena broke down. Right there. She found Victor in the crowd. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Your mother cleaned floors so you could read contracts. It's time her name meant something to everyone else, too. The Carla Rodriguez Scholarship's first year. 127 applications. Every one from a student who'd had to choose between family and education. 40 of them got a second chance. By year 5, that number would be 200. All because one woman refused to stay invisible. News coverage exploded. NPR, New York Times, CNN. The legal community responded. 12 major firms created similar return-to-school programs. Victor's business recovered. Revenue exceeded previous highs. Reputation for ethics attracted new clients. Elena's housekeeping colleagues. 3 of them enrolled in continuing education. Company sponsored. The squeaky cart now sat in Northwestern's law library. Permanent installation. Plaque beneath it. Question assumptions. See everyone. Elena's old housekeeping uniform was donated to the Chicago History Museum. Exhibit on hidden figures of Chicago justice. The water carafe from that first meeting sat on Elena's desk. Flowers in it. 6 months after the ceremony. Elena returned to the Grand Plaza Hotel, where it all began. Same penthouse conference room. But now she was leading the meeting. Nonprofit board. Planning community justice initiatives. She walked past housekeeping staff in the hallway. Stopped. Asked each their name. Shook hands. One new employee. Rosa. 19. Mexican immigrant. Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Elena smiled. Please, Elena. And thank you. Your work matters more than you know. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, the smell of expensive coffee. But Elena never forgot the smell of lemon polish, bleach, industrial soap. She never forgot what it felt like to be invisible. And that's exactly what made her powerful. The photo on her desk showed everyone together. Elena, Victor, Maria, the housekeeping staff, scholarship recipients, all of them, equals. 3 years later, 12 of Elena's mentees were practicing attorneys. 4 opened their own firms. 1 was running for state legislature. And Sofia Martinez, Maria's daughter, was at Northwestern Law School on the Carla Rodriguez Scholarship. Her focus? Workers' rights. Some legacies are measured in generations. Elena had built hers one invisible person at a time. 1 year after that first contract. Elena's office, 6 in the morning. She arrived early, always did. Passed security. They knew her name now. Stopped in the break room, made coffee for the entire floor. Old habit. But now it was choice, not invisibility. A knock on her door. Maria stood there, housekeeping uniform, nervous hands. "Do you have a minute?" "Always." Maria sat, first time ever. She looked uncomfortable in the chair. "My daughter Sofia, she wants to be a lawyer, but we can't afford—" Elena smiled. "How are her grades?" 4.0, but she's working 2 jobs just for community college. Elena pulled out an application from her desk drawer. "Carla Rodriguez Scholarship. Have her apply. I'll write the recommendation." Maria cried. A year ago, Elena Rodriguez was invisible. Now she was changing the definition of who gets to be seen. The numbers told the story. Kozlov Enterprises, $680 million in revenue, record high, 0 legal issues. Calabrese crime family, 28 members were incarcerated, organization dismantled. Carla Rodriguez Scholarship, 40 recipients, 38 still enrolled, 100% on track to graduate. Elena's former housekeeping colleagues, 5 now in degree programs, all companies sponsored. Elena personally mentored 12 young lawyers of color, all from non-traditional backgrounds. But there was a human cost, too. Victor's relationship with old associates was destroyed. Elena received threats periodically. Calabrese family associates are still angry. Both lived under permanent security detail now. Some doors closed, but different, better doors opened. 2 weeks later, Grand Plaza Hotel, penthouse suite, where it all started. New client meeting. Elena led the presentation. The conference room door opened. Housekeeping. New employee, Rosa, 23, Mexican immigrant. Elena stopped mid-sentence. "Hi, I'm Elena. What's your name?" Rosa looked surprised. "Rosa. Nice to meet you, Rosa. Take your time. We'll wait." The client frowned. "Is this necessary?" Elena's voice was firm. "Yes, because Rosa might know something we don't. And I've learned the smartest person in the room is sometimes the one no one's looking at." Rosa finished cleaning, started to leave, but she'd overheard the contract discussion. She knocked again. "Excuse me, that company name? Sovereign Logistics? My brother worked there. They don't pay workers. Many lawsuits in the immigrant community." Elena's eyes sharpened. "Can you tell me more?" The meeting paused. Elena spent 20 minutes talking to Rosa. Discovery. The client had nearly partnered with a company exploiting undocumented workers. Deal terminated immediately. Elena turned to Rosa. "You may have just saved my client and a lot of vulnerable people. Can I take you to coffee?" And that's when Elena Rodriguez understood. She hadn't just changed her own life. She'd changed what was possible. Because now, when someone in a uniform speaks up, people listen. So here's what I need you to do. And I mean you. The person listening to this right now. Think about the invisible people in your life. The housekeeper, the delivery driver, the janitor, the barista. Tomorrow, learn one of their names. Just one. Ask them a question that isn't transactional. How long have you worked here? What do you like about this job? Where are you from? Listen to the answer. Actually listen. Because somewhere right now, there's another Elena Rodriguez. Maybe she's cleaning your office. Maybe she's serving your coffee. Maybe she's holding the door open while you walk past without looking. And she's brilliant. She's capable. She's waiting for someone to notice. That someone could be you. If you've ever felt invisible, share this story. Use hashtag #SeeTheInvisible. If you're in a position to hire, interview, or mentor, ask yourself, who am I not seeing? If you know someone working 3 jobs to put themselves through school, send them this. Send them the Carla Rodriguez scholarship information. Because talent is everywhere. Opportunity isn't. And the difference between the two is you. Elena and Victor launched the Invisible Talent Initiative, a nationwide program partnering with major corporations to identify, train, and promote overlooked employees. Year 1 goal, 1,000 people. Year 5, 50,000. Northwestern Law School now offers justice through visibility, a clinical program where law students provide free legal services to low-wage workers. The Carla Rodriguez Scholarship has been replicated at 15 universities because one story can change systems. Evening. Elena sat at her desk, looking at a photo of her mother. Her mother's cross around her neck, the squeaky cartwheel on her bookshelf, her housekeeping uniform framed. She picked up her phone, called Maria. Tell Sophia I'll meet with her this weekend. And Maria? Thank you. For what? For seeing me when I was invisible, for bringing me food when I was too tired to stop, for reminding me why this work matters. Elena Rodriguez never forgot what invisibility felt like. That's why she spent the rest of her career making sure no one else had to feel it alone. The most powerful thing you can do is see someone everyone else overlooks.